I'm a relatively new fan of How to Train Your Dragon. I only watched the first few films not that long ago. And I think that's relatively significant when it comes to my opinion of the 2025 film, because it means I haven't had this long history with the films. They're not films that I've seen again and again. So it is worth bearing in mind that my perspective is of somebody who is quite new to the films. So I wouldn't consider myself a huge fan of the films, but I did enjoy them. If you're a big, big fan of the animations, I'd like to think you'd enjoy this remake and the live action approach. I do think it's pretty great, but I would love to know what you think of it. Does it meet your expectations if you've got this long history with the animations? Personally, I think it's a pretty solid film. This is written and directed by Dean DeBlois. I apologise if I've mispronounced that, with a cast including Mason Thames, Nico Parker, Gerard Butler, Nick Frost, and various others. And the story is about Hiccup, who goes in search of a dragon, not expecting to make friends with one, but then he discovers Toothless, and it could be an opportunity for them to work together and become friends rather than enemies. And my first question, I guess the first question I asked myself, is did we need a live-action remake? Now, it has been, I think, 15 years between this one and the animation? It's not the longest amount of time. I don't think it needed a live-action remake. But that being said, I did like it. And there are two ways of judging it. Does it feel like it was necessary? No. Does it stand up on its own? Yes. So if you don't like animation, and there are people who just cannot stand animation, and that's absolutely fine, it is a way to enjoy the story. I still don't think it was necessary, but I do think it's a good film. I think that it stands on its own as a narrative, great storytelling, it's very easy to feel engaged with the narrative, great acting, and I think the casting is really good. As a new fan of the animations, I do think the casting was very effective here. I'd love to know in particular what you think of that. The visuals are stunning. The locations, the set designs, the camera work, the special effects, everything just looks absolutely fantastic. The music is really great as well. Music is by John Powell, and it really is fantastic to listen to. I don't think it's as charming as the animated version. So it's not, for me, as good. Basically, if I were in the mood for the story, would I watch this one or the animation? And I do think I'd end up watching the animation. This is great. As I said, it completely stands on its own, but it just isn't quite as magical or as charming as the animated version. And I guess both of them being pretty decent, though, it comes down to which do you prefer? Do you prefer animations or do you prefer live actions? And I do think that because they are both really great in quality, it does just come down to personal preference. But I'd love to know what you think of it, again, if you are a big fan of the animated version. It's satisfying, it's stunning to look at, the narrative is great, the characters are great, the casting is great, the performances are really solid as well. Great music, as I said, the music really stands out. How to Train Your Dragon may not have needed a live action remake, but I don't hate that it exists. I think it's a really solid film. And whether you've seen the animation or you could not care less about the animated version, I'd say it's one that's worth watching.